All right, the standards that we're hitting with Gettysburg is to distinguish between and make connections with individuals and events. And then context clues and supporting our interpretations. But the review part is hitting every standard that we've done with this unit. Okay. All right, let's finish our Gettysburg. This was on the worksheets that we did, but let's talk about it. So let's look at paragraph 2 again. The first paragraph said, 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. What did the fathers represent there? The founding fathers, which would be Thomas Jefferson and not Lincoln, Washington, Jefferson, the people who fought in the which war? Which war would it have been? Revolutionary War. Good. All right, the second paragraph. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that battlefield as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. Okay. All right. What is the main idea of paragraph 2? So you're right. The main idea has something to do with the fact that we're in a civil war fighting. What does it mean by testing whether that nation, the word that, is key to understanding the main idea of this paragraph? What is that nation referred to? You're getting closer. It's not necessarily the United States. It goes back to paragraph 1. Getting closer. Record that part. Our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation. Okay, that's paragraph 1. In paragraph 2, it says, testing whether that nation can long endure. So what is that nation referring to? So that is referring to the nation that was started by George Washington, okay, the one with the 13 colonies, the Revolutionary War. So testing whether that nation is referring to the Civil War fighting to preserve what? To preserve the nation that put in the Declaration of Independence. So this is where you see another reference to that Declaration of Independence. I would annotate that if you haven't already, because that's one of the things that we have been looking at, and it's one of the things you're going to see on your writing prompt. That's one of the things that we're doing. So make sure that when you find those references to the Declaration of Independence that you're marking them. Testing whether that nation, the nation that was set up at the Founding Fathers, 1776, what does can long endure mean? Okay, so can that nation actually last? Yes, we're still here, so we know the answer to that. Okay, this is supposed to be the tone of paragraph 2. Okay, so tone is emotion. Abraham Lincoln has a feeling when he's talking about can this nation endure? And when I taught this, we talked about positive, neutral, and negative. Okay, so, and then we had a little line. So when we think about the words that he chose, and tone is based on the vocabulary that's used. So I'm going to make this a little smaller so I can write. So let's look at some vocabulary words in the paragraph. What are some strong words that stand out at you in the paragraph? I'll give you the first one, engaged. What's another one? Okay, conceived. What did you say? Endure. Dedicated. Okay, anything else? What about resting? It says resting place. When we look at these words, are they positive, negative, or neutral? Positive. Okay. So we know the tone to this is going to be in the positive range, right? So it's not going to be anger. It's not going to be hatred. It's the opposite of that. So what are some positive tone words that you can think of? Pensive. Okay. Pensive, I think, would be more, not necessarily neutral, but not completely negative either. Pensive is almost like you're thinking. And so I would actually put this more like right here for pensive. Okay. What's a good one, a positive one? Which one? Joyful. Okay, that's a positive feeling. Respectful. Okay, what's another positive tone or feeling? Cheerful. Okay, what's another one? Ecstatic. Okay. Anyone have another one? What about calm? Okay. Let's look at our choices. Of the ones that we were able to come up with, which one do you think Lincoln is saying when he uses engaged, conceived, endured, dedicated, and resting? It is. These are all positive. So which one is closest to what you think he's feeling? Respectful. Okay. He definitely has a respectful tone there because conceived, that means to be born. Dedicated means to work hard. Resting is more calm. Engaged, that's a positive one. It means two people coming together, right? So definitely respectful. Do you understand a little bit better about how to find those tone words now? Because I guarantee you tone is going to be on that test. It's a major standard, and they're going to keep testing it until you get it. So you feel more confident about tone? Okay, good. All right, let's look at paragraph 3. But, all right, but that tells us that he's switching gears, right? Up to this point, it's all about, look what we've been doing. We've been fighting to preserve what the Declaration of Independence said that we needed to do, which is freedom, right, and equality. We talked about that. But now he's going, hey, you know what, let's wait a minute. In a larger sense. What does in a larger sense mean?
In a big image.
In a big image or in a big way, okay? We cannot dedicate. We cannot consecrate. We cannot hallow this ground. All three of those words are what? What type of words are they? Actually, it depends on context. I'll put them more as neutral because they could go either way. I'll give it to you. Religious, right? Okay. If you look at the definition, to make hollow is to honor as holy. Consecrate is to make sacred. Okay, so they are more of religious terms. So we cannot consecrate. We cannot hallow this ground. So what is he saying about this ground? What can we as a living people not do?
Create.
Does he want us to worship this ground?
Yes.
We cannot consecrate. Right. It's not our job to living. We're not worshiping this ground, are we? Because the brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it, which if we remember from a second ago, means make holy, far above our power. So who consecrated that land? The living and the dead. So the battle that took place there, those are the people who made this ground holy. Not us. What we say here, what we do here, it's not about us. It's about these men. And that's why I showed you the clips of both the north and the south, right? This is where you see he's honoring the southern side. He doesn't agree with them. He acknowledges that. But he says that they were still brave men to fight in this battle. Okay? Lost my place. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead should not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. What is the new birth of freedom? Think about the paragraph you wrote. The Declaration said freedom was what?
Happiness.
Life, liberty, and happiness to?
Men.
Which men?
All men.
All men.
The Declaration of Independence, just men, right?
Yeah.
But here he says new birth of freedom. So he's saying a new definition of freedom, right?
Yes.
And Abraham Lincoln says that new definition of freedom is who?
All men.
All men. Okay, so race is taken out of it, isn't it?
Yes.
And that government of the people, by the people, for the people, should not perish from this earth. So what is the main idea of paragraph 3?
He's giving a new definition of freedom to all men.
The government served us.
Freedom. Okay, that is definitely part of the paragraph. Is that the main idea, or is that supporting something else that he's saying? Look towards the beginning. Supporting what? What is the main idea? The men.
Are equal.
The men fought for equality.
Yes. If you look at the very beginning, the men died on this holy ground. They made this ground holy, right?
Yes.
They didn't die in vain. Okay? All right, let's look at the tone. Are we looking at positive, negative, or let's do some vocabulary first. Tone of paragraph 3. Give me some vocabulary.
Mournful.
Mournful,
Dedicated.
Grief.
grief.
Dedicated count.
Oh, dedicated is a good one. And because he says it 3 times, right? I'm going to put the D in there because one of the times is dedicated. So that's why I did that. Okay? Committed.
Acceptance.
Acceptance. Okay. Always put the bold ones in there. Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right. When he says these words, how is he feeling? What are some feeling words? Are we thinking positive, negative, or neutral?
Neutral.
Okay. Why do you say neutral on those?
It depends on how the paragraph goes. Like just
Positive does not necessarily have to mean happy. Okay. Because you're right, it's not a happy feeling. Positive just means that the outlook is good. Okay. So the last one was respectful. Is he keeping on the respectful, or is he being a little bit more forceful?
More forceful.
Okay, so what's a more forceful word, positive, than respectful? All right, when we look at that list, which one do we think applies to his tone? Because all of them could apply, but we want the strongest because you just said that it's stronger than respect. Which one's going to be our strongest tone word there? Reverent. Okay? That means strong admiration and strong respect. Okay? You revere something. So that's definitely one of them. But he's also got a slight tone in there where he's pushing us, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's pushing us to do something honorable, which is keep fighting. And so when you think of revere, he is very much honoring and revering these people who fought here. Okay, very good. Which parts of the speech do you think are the most powerful?
The third paragraph.
Okay, why do you think third paragraph?
It basically talks about how some of the men died on the land and they're respecting their honor. And also giving freedom to all men as opposed to the other race.
That's a very good explanation. In the beginning, it was referencing the Declaration of Independence. It was more informational, okay? But this one, he's creating a big image of these men who died for the new freedom versus the old freedom. And so it does have that much stronger image. Good. Why do you think that he gave the speech where the battle took place?
To honor the dead in the room, and to honor the ones that fought in the war.
Okay. And who fought? Okay. Any other reason? What happened if he had given this exact same speech in Washington, D.C.? Would it have had the same impact?
Nope.
No.
Because remember the images, and this is another reason I gave you the videos that I did. Think about those images, okay? They cleaned up the battlefield, yes, but if you walked on that ground and they had people who fought in battles there, what images would be going through their minds when they were hearing these words? He doesn't have to go into detail. He was not the only speaker that day. There was another speaker who, for like 2 hours, talked about the bravery of these men who fought there. Lincoln knew he didn't have to do that because by standing on that battlefield, he was automatically, by saying brave men, putting the image in the minds of their listeners. Look where we're standing, right here. You had 38,000 people die, okay? The rest of them were casualties. They died like after surgery. Okay, so you did have more, but actually on the battlefield. So you had all of these people right here, these brave men. It accomplished his point of emphasizing the brave people in the fight for freedom. Okay. Why does Lincoln think a person's actions versus a person's words? Okay, what does he say about actions versus words? Look in the third stanza. I'm going to read it to you again so you guys can look at this. It says, the brave men, living and dead, who struggled here. So that's the action, right?
Yes.
Have consecrated means to make holy, it far above our power. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here. All right, we'll pick up here after the restroom break. Someone tell me, what does he say about a person's actions?
They differ from words.
They do differ from words. How?
As in, like, if a certain action may cause a problem, where words, it will cause some problem, but it will just die out soon.
Words die out, which means they don't last, right?
They don't last much.
But actions what?
It has an effect on a certain thing.
And so how does it last?
It lasts a while, and a while is like a short time. This one was like,
Okay, good. And it says that in there. It says, consecrated, it makes holy, means it's going to last. And the world's not going to remember what we say here. Although it's kind of ironic that this is considered the #1 speech in American history, but hey. He says dedicate multiple times. Why?
dedicated.
They dedicated soldiers that died
So there's the definition, to be devoted to a personal goal. So why does he say it so many times? What is he trying to emphasize to us?
That they're.
The soldiers are committed, the former slaves are committed, because by this time he'd done the Emancipation Proclamation. They are committed to this freedom. And who else? There's 3 times he said it. Who else is going to be committed? The soldiers. That the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So the regular people of our country are committed. And what are they committed to?
To fight for their freedom.
To freedom. They're committed to making free everyone. Okay? All right, very good. All right, so let's look at, I know I skipped the others, but you already did those. We tied that into our conversation on slide 1, and then you did the parallelism on Friday. Okay, so let's look at our Douglas review. When we do this, the skills specifically that we're looking for are characteristics, purpose, tone, motivation, and narrative techniques. Now, we've learned all of those. All of these are a separate standard, and all of these are going to be on your benchmark. So we're going to look through and see which ones you may need some more help with. Okay. I'm going to give you a handout, and you're going to go through on that handout, and you're going to just basically answer the questions. You're going to characterize different characters. You're going to tell me the purpose, and then you'll turn that in at the end of class.